Welcome to the latest episode of Branding the Experience, where we discuss tips where we can create environments where employees actually want to come to work and customers want to keep coming back. I'm your host, Ken Bader. I'm also the founder of Bader Training and Consulting and the author of The Formula for Business Success equals B plus C plus S, a discussion on brand, culture, and strategy alignment. Our show today is on the more things change, the more they stay the same. And that is a perfect alignment to the brand principle for our show and for what I provide in terms of creating environments where employees want to come to work and customers want to keep coming back. Because many of you folks that have seen my shows before, listened to the podcasts, read my book, read my articles, or seen me speak, know that I many times, in order to talk about and give an example of brand, culture, and strategy alignment, I use a rather negative example, and I refer to it as a place that tagline themselves as your baseball headquarters. And to make a long story short, their brand, culture, and strategy were as off as any organization I think that I've ever experienced. And this is about 5 or 6 years ago. I'll save you the story of your baseball headquarters because you've either heard it, or if you didn't, please send me an email. I could either send you the excerpt or send you one of the videos where I talk about it. But, again, about 5 or 6 years ago, I had that experience. Literally, just this last Saturday, for the first time in over 5 years, I actually patronized that particular restaurant again. You might think, what are you, nuts? You already had a bad experience, and to use a high-level MBA term, it sucked. Why would you even go back there? Well, a colleague of mine was nice enough to get him and his wife and my wife and I tickets to a comedy show. And this particular establishment was nearby the venue, and he suggests, well, the show starts at about 7. Let's go at about 5 o'clock. I already made reservations. The four of us can have a nice dinner, and then we can go to the show. And he told me where he made reservations, and the first thing that I thought is, well, we're probably not going to have a nice dinner. But instead of talking about how bad my experience was, I'm sure he's probably heard it before, but never made the correlation. Because, as I said before, I try very, very hard that if I'm going to use a negative example in order to teach, that I do not use the name of the business. Because the point isn't to disparage another business. It's simply to help us learn from other mistakes. And in this particular case, I hadn't mentioned the name of the establishment. So I also thought, well, while I don't want to go there, let's give it another shot, because I heard they changed a number of employees. They changed the staff and may have even changed management. So maybe, they've created a different culture that in essence has created a different brand experience. So let's give it a shot. And, well, I certainly don't even have to begin to tell you how bad this second experience was. In fact, my experience on Saturday was even worse than my original experience. It took us an hour to order our food. We never even got our main order. All we got were our soups. And the soups that we got, my wife and I ordered the same French onion soup, and it looked completely different. Branding is consistency, especially at the restaurant. But it was obvious that the employees didn't want to be there. They were even more disgruntled, it seemed like, than when I had been there 5 to 6 years ago. And the food was okay, although it came out cold, the soup. But it got so bad that we actually had to cancel our dinner at about 6:45 so that we can walk over and make our show on time. All we got was soup and whatever drinks we had ordered. But the point is, it was an absolute terrible experience, an experience that was worse than the one that I had 5 or 6 years ago. So what can we learn from that, other than I'm stupid enough to go back to a place where I had a bad experience, as well as the fact that I had a really bad meal, or lack thereof in this case. I think what we can learn is that one, while I often joke with clients and say that, we could ignore the problem and hope that it goes away, but that rarely, if ever, it is a positive solution. That's definitely the case here. That if we're not actively building our culture and creating a branded experience, not only is it not going to get better, I promise you that, but it's going to get even worse. Now, ironically, I looked into this place a little bit because while I don't share the name of the establishment in my teaching, obviously with close friends, as all consumers do, say, never go back to that place. And ironically, the day after, I met with some colleagues, and they said, "How was your evening?" And I said, "Well, the show was great, but I can say that the experience at the restaurant definitely wasn't." So, and I gave them the name so that I can look out for my friends and close colleagues and say, "Please, for the love of God, don't go there." But what we can learn is that if we're not actively building and enhancing our culture, we're not engaging with our employees, we're not building a brand and deliberately branding our experience, and also creating, as I say, creating a strategy that we're actually implementing so that customers want to keep coming back, that's never going to happen. What's going to happen is we're going to brand ourselves as something that is less than meets expectations. And you might be surprised why this place is still open. I am certainly surprised. As I alluded to a couple minutes ago, I talked to my colleagues and delved in, and apparently whoever owns that place has quite a bit of money. I hope for his or her sake that they're finding a way to turn a profit, because I know that that one time shame on you, second time shame on me. I should have said something, but I definitely won't be going back, and I will definitely be sharing with my close colleagues where not to go. So again, we need to actively, not passively, but actively engage our employees, teach them exactly how we want them to deliver service, and actually appreciate them, because it was obvious at this place both 5 years ago or so, as well as last Saturday, the employees did not want to be there. Therefore, it created a very, very poor branded experience that probably had very, very little to do with the food. I actually believe that if we actually got our dinner and not just soup, it probably would have tasted pretty good. But we need to act on these things in terms of actively building a culture and branding the experience. Otherwise, not only is it not going to happen, it's also going to go downhill really quick. I'm Ken Bader. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with me. And here's hoping that, unlike the example that I gave, that you are actively engaging your employees to create the culture you need, creating a well-branded experience, and implementing that strategy so that you can continue to proliferate that over and over again. Have a good day, and take care.